Hey yo, what's going on everyone? This is your host, Tarad Rashan, and you are now tuned into Taradcast. For all of the brand new listeners out there listening to our show for the very first time, welcome. And for all of you returning listeners, happy that we are back on the airwaves. I just want to say welcome back. Now at Taradcast, you can take everything we say with a grain of salt. We simply just want to add some flavor to your meal. So if we are doing that, then we are doing our job. Today's episode is about a topic that to me is something that I've had to truly learn and hone in on and concentrate on in order to give me the understanding of myself that I have today. And I can't wait to talk about this topic with you all. So without further ado, today's episode topic is the obscurity of emotional maturity. This is Taradcast. Let's get it. What's good, y'all? I am so happy to be back. I don't even think y'all understand how happy to be back that I am. But I just want to, first and foremost, just acknowledge everyone who has continued to not only support me, but to support this show, to support me on Patreon, to support me on social media, hell, even to support me on Clubhouse. And just knowing that I have people behind me that have continued to show their love for everything that I am doing and looking forward to doing, that really fills my heart. It really does. It really does. And over the last month, I've really had to take some time just to stand still, just to refocus, just to reprioritize. Because if there's one thing I know about me is that for me, this is one of my biggest flaws. For me, I tend to get swept up in everything that I can do for other people. And oftentimes that leads me away from focusing on some of the most important things that I can do within myself and at home. And so, if anything, I appreciate you all's patience. I appreciate you all's understanding. And I appreciate the fact that y'all allow me to still even be in your ears now. Because I'm coming to you from a standpoint of renewed understanding, renewed passion, a more fully realized version of myself and what I need to do and what I need to prioritize, what I need to put a lot of my focus and my energy and my time into. And from that standpoint, I'm coming to you now with this show, with this show. I've kept y'all waiting long enough, but at the same time, I appreciate y'all for waiting. I do. Taradcast is not about to die no time soon. It's not about to die no time soon. But at the same time, I also have to make sure that I am handling what needs to be handled. I am prioritizing what needs to be prioritized. And that was probably the biggest wake-up call between the last episode and this one. And so, again, I truly do appreciate all of you just for hanging in there with me, just for extending me your time. And I want to let you know that I do not take that for granted. A lot of stuff has been working in the background. A lot of stuff has changed in the background. And I hope that those changes will not only be changes that will propel me to the heights that I want to go, but they will also be understood and they will be impactful. Because I'm at a point in my life now where I want to really and truly start taking action and making those changes work for me. So again, to all of you, thank you just for being who you are. Thank you just for allowing me the privilege to be in your ears right now. I just wanted to say that. I wanted to acknowledge that. I wanted to let y'all know that. Because I don't want it to seem like I'm just popping back up as if I haven't been gone for a month. Like, that is not what this is, you know? It's not. And I just want you to know that I truly do care. I love all of you. And I appreciate everything that you do for this show, because this show would not be what it is without you. So thank you. And with that, I want to go ahead and take care of our housekeeping details, because we have a show for you. So if you would like to take our show with you on the go, just know that we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Spreaker, Podchaser, Castbox, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and YouTube. You can also find Taradcast on Throne, which is a free live messaging application that allows us here at Taradcast to exclusively reach our listeners. Make sure to sign up if you'd like to keep the conversations going after the episode. If you're looking for natural oils for ultimate hydration and care for your hair and skin, hit up the Resilient Lotus at www.theresilientlotus.com. You can also use promo code TARADCAST to receive a discount on your purchase. If you are a lover of authentic, chunky salsas and the most delicious birria tacos and, new to the menu, birria pizzas in Oklahoma City, make sure to reach out to Morenitas Salsitas at www.crtn-t.com/Morenitas-Salsitas. Last but not least, if you are in the market for an affordable graphic designer to create your next logo, flyer, album cover, or animated video, check out at Rose Graphism, ROZAYGRAPHISM on Instagram. All this information, as always, will be in our episode notes. All right, so today we are talking about the obscurity of emotional maturity. Now, why are we talking about this? And this is actually a conversation that is inspired from conversations that I've had in Clubhouse, as a matter of fact. And if you don't know about Clubhouse by now, Clubhouse is a voice chat only app where people come together and congregate in rooms and just talk. There's a lot of influential people on there. There's a lot of people with small businesses. There are people on there that are just there, to be quite honest. And it's become the newest, hottest app where people can come together, speak on issues, talk with one another, meet new people, link, connect, network, all kinds of things. And personally, I love it. I've actually had to take a bit of a break from Clubhouse because I was a little bit too in love with it. And again, one of the things I had to reprioritize. But at the same time, the people that I had the opportunity to meet are some of the most phenomenal people that I have ever interacted with. And I truly feel like I have a new Clubhouse family. And we talk often, whether it's on the app or off the app. It is given me the benefit of cultivating relationships that I never would have ever created if it weren't for this application itself. And so truly I am thankful for this application, and I have 7 invites. If anybody wants to jump on Clubhouse, let me know. Send me an email and I'll get you on there. I promise. But yeah, Clubhouse is a very, very influential app, and I have seen it work wonders. And the reason why I bring this up is because I remember being a part of a conversation of a mental health room that I was hosting, where there were 2 people who were speaking, and I remember hearing both points that were being made. And being someone who has continuously put in a lot of time and energy and effort and just work into knowing how to see 2 opposing arguments and to find the merit in those opposing arguments, and then tie those things together in a logical way, to where even if those 2 arguments do not coincide with one another, there can at least be the opportunity for those points to still be made and understood and respected. And I remember being a part of a conversation that was just like that. And there was another gentleman in the room who had actually took time to compliment me on my ability to do that, on my ability to marry those points together and to create a new level of understanding that acknowledged both sides of the argument. And for me, that wasn't necessarily a confirmation of all the cool points I have accumulated over my lifetime. For me, the gentleman speaking on the emotional maturity that I had to just operate from that place, that was something that until then I really hadn't heard a lot of other people mention or talk about. You know, emotional maturity is not easy by any means. It takes a lot of concentration. And as far as this show and what it's famous for, it takes a lot of introspection, because oftentimes you'll be met with arguments that do not fit with how you think. And taking time to understand what someone else is conveying to you is not always a convenient thing. And so just to hear that, just to see someone else acknowledge the concept of emotional maturity, especially me being a man, and more so me being a black man, I feel like that was something that was completely, it was, what am I trying to say? See, y'all can tell I'm rusty. but to me, like, that was something that was virtually unheard of to me, because I've done it. I know about it. But to hear somebody else actually acknowledging that, I'm just like, people actually know what this is. And so I have to give credit where credit is due, because, you know, again, I'm not saying this from the standpoint of I am the master or the guru of emotional maturity, but nowadays you just don't see a lot of people who take that seriously. And so to encounter somebody who also takes it as seriously as I do, it was refreshing. It was really, really refreshing. It was. And so with that being said, I want to talk about this. So first things first, What is emotional maturity? And the way that I look at it, it's the ability to keep your emotions in check. It's the conscious effort that's needed to allow one's mind to respond instead of reacting in a knee-jerk kind of way. And so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about reactions versus responses. And we're going to start with reactions. So when I say a knee-jerk reaction, I every time I say that, I think literally of what that is. Like when you go to the doctor's office as a kid, the doctor takes a little hammer and hits a certain spot in your knee, and your whole leg just flies up. Like that is a literal knee-jerk reaction. It takes no thought. It's automatic. It's snap. It's right then and there. And I feel like, especially nowadays with social media and cancel culture and, the bits and pieces of news and stories that we are fed, without the whole context, I feel like we have become extremely reaction-based in our society. And being reaction-based, especially when in many instances we don't know everything that goes on, we don't know the full story, it's led to a lot of people jumping on all kinds of bandwagons in order to be a part of something, when in all honesty, they don't even need to be associated with it. They don't even need to give it their voice. They don't need to give it their energy. But we have this fascination, especially with going viral, to where we are always trying to create the best reaction to something. And we've gotten so disillusioned with that to where now, for a lot of people, it's become a habit. Being reaction-based is becoming a habit to a lot of people. And I feel like because this is the case, a lot of people are going to encourage more people to act this way, to not think before they do something. And I feel like this is going to cause, and it has honestly already caused, more trouble than what it's worth. And I find this to be extremely alarming. And I'm not necessarily talking about reactions to like new songs or people speaking or events or situations, things like that. Like there's a lot of YouTube videos where it's like, this is my reaction to this. This is my reaction to that. I'm more so talking about reacting to one another. Especially when it comes to reacting to people we don't know. And we don't hear the full story. And because we don't hear the full story, we only hear a piece of it. We think we know the whole thing. I see this happen. Hell, you see this happen all the time. And there are so many people whose lives get completely and utterly destroyed because of someone's reaction to what's happened. Now, this isn't to say that, if more details and more clues and, more items related to the story come out, it's not to say that those aren't valid. It's just that we have just taken a stance that completely ignores letting something play out. I was playing a game on my phone, a game I always play, and I remember one of the characters saying something along the lines of, prove part of a story is true and people will run with it. And that really spoke to me regarding the concept of context. And just how important context really is. Because reacting is taking a piece of something and running a full marathon with it without knowing any of the additional details behind it. I've seen this happen personally, and it's crazy. It's crazy what people will do, what people will say. And it's funny. It's really funny, but at the same time it's really sad. Because we would rather have the attention. We'd rather bask and relish in the attention of our reaction than actually take time to just sit and think about what's really happening or what's not happening. So reactions, I feel like they can be our downfall. Because now we are turning something that is supposed to be instinctual into something that has now become habitual. And that can really put people in some bad places if you keep doing that in the way that you're doing it. It's a rabbit hole that I am not trying to go down, I promise you. But that's reactions. Now I want to talk about responses. And again, I understand the whole reaction versus response thing is a very, very common topic in many circles. But for me, I wanted to talk about it here because it also ties into this conversation as well. So responses, I feel like responses are the concentrated thought towards a situation. You know, it is taking time to think about something that's happening and giving yourself the patience to evaluate what it is that you're seeing or experiencing before you deem it worthy of responding to. And I feel like when it comes to responding, it is something that has to be well thought out. It is something that has to be all things considered. You can't just fly off the handle with a response, because that is a reaction. You actually have to take time to sit and really break down every piece of what it is that you are evaluating. You know, you have to look at all sides of a conversation, all sides of an argument, all sides of what's being presented to you before you decide to engage. And I feel like that is incredibly important. For a lot of people, it's not as entertaining, unfortunately. But it also gives you more respect. Because I'm not about to sit here and entertain a loudmouth hothead who's always going crazy when something happens, the moment it happens. Like I'm not going to continuously entertain that. That would be exhausting. Someone who just continues to react to every little thing, every little stimulus that comes their way. Like, that would be exhausting. I don't have the energy nor the patience to sit and deal with that constantly. Like, I don't know how reactionary people do it, honestly. Because sometimes it is worth it to just sit and think about what's being presented to you before you do anything else. So that way you give yourself the opportunity to consider all sides. That is a huge thing. That is something that not a lot of people understand, because it actually takes time to understand. You have to put yourself in a place where you can really open your eyes and view what's in front of you. And I feel like even that, it can sometimes put people in a place where what's presented, they may disagree with that first, but when they think about it, they find the value in it. They find the merit in it. They see why it makes sense. And I feel like when you're able to see that, the next action is to respond. And when you do that, it's coming from a place that it just confirms that you have taken everything with a open mind. And I don't know, like that right there, to me, is why reactions will never garner the same respect as responses. And so I want to give a couple of examples. Of reactions versus responses. So one of the biggest ones that I have experienced in my life and seen other people who look like me experience in our lives is the N-word. Now, when it comes to the majority of people who look like me, if you hear the N-word from someone who does not look like us, the first thing we do is we react to it, right? We react to it. Because not only is that word the most hated word, the most vile word in the English language, but it's also a word that we have somehow lovingly reclaimed. And because we've reclaimed it, only we can say it. If anybody else who doesn't look like us, who didn't come from our hood or street or whatever, says it, then they are out of line. And they must be dealt with accordingly. And so when someone who is not as melanated as we are says the N-word, we react. Oftentimes it's through cussing them out. Sometimes it's from fighting them. And sometimes it's from making their life a living hell after that word has been said. For many of us, that's our reaction. But for me, I have learned how to respond to that. And for me, and I've probably said this on the show before, and so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but if I haven't, because I haven't gone back and listened to my entire catalog yet, but if I haven't, I want to say this. If I ever found myself in a discussion or an argument or a confrontation with someone who doesn't look like me, and they use the N-word against me as a weapon, I have learned that people who resort to using that to get the emotional rise out of me are basically playing their trump card, figuratively and literally, in front of me, because they have nothing left. They have nothing left to try and use against me. And so what they will do is they will try to attack me in a way that will get me emotional to the point where everything that I said and communicated up to that point goes out the window, because now my emotions are involved, because that word stings my ears. And when they use that word, if they try to use that word against me to get that reaction and I give in, then they win, because now all I am is another angry black man. And it doesn't matter what I've said up to that point. Because now they have the upside. But my response to that is to simply laugh. Because I know that if they have to resort to that word, I've won. I've won. The discussion is mine. There is nothing left for your argument to stand on now. Because you are basically trying to low blow me in this discussion to make me react to you. And when I don't, you realize that you have nothing to use against me. You have nothing to use against me. Nothing will work. Nothing will work. You've pulled out what you thought was your biggest trick. You've pulled out that last straw, that last ditch effort to try and take control of your losing battle. And it didn't work. Because the way I respond to it is me knowing that if you have to do that, you have nothing left to give. And you know it. And you know it. So, for me, that's probably one of the best examples I can give of reactions versus responding. I also feel like another good example is, if you get into an argument and you find that the argument is an unfair argument, especially if it's with like a loved one or a significant other. In arguments, many people react to what's being said. They react to what's being said because in the heat of that moment, emotions are flying. And because everything is heightened, reacting does not allow people to reach a level of understanding, even in that heightened emotional state. Because reacting means saying what I need to say in order to prove my dominance or prove my righteousness. Or even to tear down someone so that way I don't have to be hurt. And that's the thing. It's like, in arguments, we see it all the time. It's all the name calling and people who will sit here and have all of this stuff just pent up, just ready to be released when the moment calls for it. Saving up all this ammo, taking all these notes, reviewing all these tally marks, and then unloading them on someone. That's reactionary. That's reactionary because you feel like you're being challenged. You feel like, well, you already know you're wrong, but you want to make the person feel more wrong than how you feel. And that is reaction based. But when it comes to responding in arguments, it's understanding where this person is coming from and what they feel and how they feel. Understanding your role in that situation. Seeing it from their side. Acknowledging it. Respecting it. And then making your case. Arguments need to lead to solutions. And so when you are responding in an argument, the response is supposed to be geared towards leading towards a solution. If it is not, if it is designed to attack the character or the actions of a person without taking a moment to consider why they are the way they are, why they did what they did, why your role in this is so important. If it doesn't take into consideration those things, then it is a reaction. again, I've had to master being wrong. I've had to master that. Because for so much of my life, I always believed I was right about everything. But I wasn't. And so whenever I find myself in an argument, I have to take time to hear, like to actively listen to what's being said to me, what's being said about me, and to understand how, when it comes to this person's perception of my actions, this person's perception of who I am, this is what they feel. I cannot control that. I'm not a manipulator. I don't want to control it. And so for me, I have to look at these things as having some truth, whether I agree or not. But again, this is me taking time to think about what's being said to me and what's being said about me. But because I want to respond, I want to hear this, I want to acknowledge it, I want to respect it. And I also want to say my piece in order and in hopes of leading to a solution. You know, that's what I want. That's what I want. But the thing is, like, as a people, many of us are easy to manipulate due to the majority of us who react instead of respond. Many of us act first, then we think about those actions long and well after the fact, when it should be the opposite. It's like, you know, shoot now, ask questions later, as opposed to asking questions now and then shooting the person that really needs to be shot. Because, you know, if you shoot now, the person that you shot might not end up being the one that needs to be shot, you know? And now you'll never know. Now you'll continue to be led astray, right? Right? Because we are so easily swayed. We're so easily swayed because we are reaction-based people. We are. That is just the truth about it. We are reaction-based people. And because we are reaction-based people, we can be easily manipulated. Like, listen, anybody who is black like me, and I'm not talking about the country song. I'm not. Side note, I have a slight problem with that song. But anyway, listen, our history in this country is a history that is, you know, I've talked about this in other episodes. You can go listen to those, and I might have more that come even after what I'm about to say now. But we are some of the most studied and easily exploited people in this country by others. We are. That's just the fact of the matter. We are studied and we are easily exploited. Like, think about it. From a consumerism standpoint, we are buyers. Most of us are not investors. You know, we're just now getting to a point where a lot of us are wanting to become small business owners. And that is a really, really good first step. It's a really good first step. But because so many of us are consumers, especially with brands that we put all this value on, I feel like we do not give ourselves and one another credit for everything that we do, because we believe that someone has already done it or did it better than we do. Which is why you hear all these people who talk about all these brands, because we want to look like we have something. because that look gains reactions to us, right? And we love reactions. Reactions bring about attention, immediate attention, immediate gratification. And because we are like that, the majority of us are like that, companies and people all around this country know how to get over on us. We gave them the blueprint. Like, I know that there are a lot of people in the Asian community right now who are hurting because of the devastating and racially motivated attack that happened this past week, where Asian women were killed by a racist white man. And I feel for them. I really do. But at the same time, they also study us too. You go to the hood and you'll see hair stores owned by people of Asian descent. We are studied. We are known to be consumers. We don't care. We do not even think about where a lot of our products come from and who owns the places and businesses that manufacture and market and sell those products to us. And we are just now getting to a point where being an entrepreneur is something that is now the in thing. And it's crazy how that is, because for so long, we didn't even think that was something worth doing. We didn't have the belief that was something worth doing. We couldn't imagine ourselves owning a business when there's so many other businesses out here who are doing things. But the thing is, nobody can do you like you. And what you have to offer comes from you. So why not go into business for yourself? Put yourself in a place where you don't have to be the consumer anymore. You can be the provider. You can be the investor. But you have to make that decision. You know? And the thing is, when you make that decision, you can start studying other people. Just like how we've been studied, right? Puts you on the other side of the table now. When you start learning about market trends and all that, like, yeah, you'll be able to see it. And it's mind-blowing, the information that you will receive. Trust me, I've seen some of it. People, most times, are no different. They behave in very similar ways. And so knowing that, it just might push you over the edge and give you what you need to be successful. But the thing is, for the majority of us, we're studied. And because we are consumers, they know what to feed us. Also, on the activism side, they also know that we are reactionary. You know, I remember some episodes back, I was talking about Candace Owens, and I get it. She is the most hated, like, black person outside of, like, Stacey Dash. But I remember she was talking about George Floyd, you know, and going and finding out information, you know, and what I'm about to say, you know, it is not something that I personally know, but it is a point of thought. It is something to think about. And I remember her talking about how, you know, she researched and spoke with women who had been abused by George Floyd, and what it must be like for those women to see his face and to hear his name, and to know that there was the potential that something was done to them by him. Again, I haven't researched this, but it just brings to mind the actual thought of the things that we don't know, the things that we will never know. But in this situation, the potential that women have been abused, and now they are seeing this man being held up as a martyr, and the world will never know the negative impact that he may have had on them, and that was a really interesting thing to think about, especially in this era of being woke now, because in so many situations we will elevate someone, but the same person that we elevate may have done horrible things to other people. And when we elevate them, we are now elevating that person's trauma, because we are reacting to what's being shown. We are reacting out of context and not responding. And that can lead to a lot of dissension, a lot of confusion, a lot of abuse, a lot of hurt, a lot of mistrust, And again, I'm not here to necessarily, shame the legacy of George Floyd or any person that has died unfairly, when it comes to police brutality, because I understand there are a lot of racists out here who do not care. They will murder us in cold blood, whether we are innocent or not. I don't believe that people deserve to die just because they look a certain way. But at the same time, I do believe that people who have committed crimes should be tried, should be processed through legal means. So that way, the truth can come out, the truth can be conveyed. I'm just not going to uplift every person that I see because I don't know them. I do believe that it is a terrible tragedy that people are dying at the hands of crooked people. But unless I know this person's character specifically, the only thing that I can be sad about, and this is my response, the only thing that I can be sad about is the fact that another life was taken and we had no idea, the majority of us had no idea the person that they were. And it's not until people speak out about these people and tell us who they are that will give credence to their character and will provide us with a better picture of who this person was. For me, I wait for that. I don't want to react because I don't know. I don't know. And so many of us pretend like we do know. It's that knee-jerk reaction, like we do know who this person was. But the thing is, I know for me, I've hurt people as well. I have hurt people. And if my name were to be out there in such a way, it would only elevate their hurt. Unless I'm able to reconcile that in some way beforehand. But the last thing that I would want to do is to have my memory contribute to somebody else's trauma. Like, that is a hard thing to think about. Like, just really thinking about that, it's really hard. It's really hard. Because it takes us out of being reaction-based. And now we have to respond to what's being shown. You know? And that is something that we are not comfortable with. We're not. And the thing is, for a lot of us, we don't allow much room for proper emotional development. Things like that. Where we can actually go through the full range of emotions before we respond. To gather all the information that we need before we respond. A lot of us don't know what that is, nor do our elders allow much room for it. And that, in turn, stunts our growth. See, look, and I know a lot of y'all will agree with me on this. A lot of us grew up being shown and taught that having any type of emotional reaction was bad. And because of that, we were forced to suppress it. I know that when it comes to parenting and child development in the Black community, gaslighting is one of the biggest things that I have seen. Like gaslighting, like the literal psychological manipulation that has one of us, all of us, questioning our sanity in the midst of a situation. Like, that is real. That is so real. And it's done to us by our very own. Like, it's the craziest thing. It really is. It's the craziest thing to think about. And I feel like because a lot of us grow up with these types of people continuously doing it in our lives, it becomes normal. Like parenting and child development, like, again, I remember being a child, being whooped for something that I did and not necessarily having an opportunity to know why it was wrong. Not having an opportunity to understand why this action that I took had the consequences that it had. Instead, I was whooped. Why? Because it's more convenient. You don't have to say much. I'm the parent, you're the child. I'm beating you because you did this. I'm not necessarily going to tell you why. And if I do, it's going to be later. But for now, you're getting this whooping. And that left me with so many more questions than answers. I know for a lot of us it did. And for a lot of us, we wanted to try and figure out the way to do those things without being caught. So that way we could at least escape the pain and still engage in the pleasure, whatever the action was. And I feel like that is going to be something that permeates throughout the generations if we don't put a stop to it. Because it is inconvenient, but still necessary to teach a child about why what they did was wrong. To teach them about why these actions led to these consequences. To get them to understand. Simply beating a child, yeah, it's going, the child is going to feel pain. But oftentimes, the emotional understanding of knowing why they are being punished for what they did, of why their actions hold such heavy weight, oftentimes that is enough. I've told y'all before, I haven't had to ever whoop my daughter, because when I make her think about why she did something wrong and how that made me feel, she breaks down automatically. I don't even have to touch her. Because for us, developing her emotionally is more important than just disciplining in the moment. Because now she's learning how to consider cause and effect, to consider how her actions affect other people. And if her actions hurt someone, what that looks like and what that feels like. Is that what you want to do? Because if you do this, I will feel like this. Especially if you're being mean. You being mean makes me feel like this. And because it makes me feel like this, I don't want to be around you until you are ready to be nice again. You know, understanding this concept to a 5-year-old, and she gets it. She may go into her room, she may slam her door, all that. Okay, but she's thinking about it. And guaranteed 5 to 10 minutes, she's like, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't want to be mean anymore. Can I come back? Because she thought about it. And she doesn't want to be a mean person. You know? And we didn't even have to touch her at all. And that is what allows us to start becoming more and more emotionally mature. I really feel like we need to prioritize what that is. Because the lack of it is what produces the continuous chain of disappointment in our community with one another. And because that continuous chain continues, we perpetuate attitudes that keep those behind us further behind us because we deem it inconvenient or problematic when emotions are being expressed in their rawest form. You know, even though we won't say it out loud, a lot of us believe that if we didn't get the opportunity to be whole people, fully realized and emotionally stable people, that those behind us should only be half or a quarter of a person. Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? I'm just saying. It is. It is. So many of us feel that way, whether we care to admit to it or not. We do. And I don't know, so many of us don't want to be the bigger person. And I get it. In some situations, being the bigger person is inconvenient. I don't want to be the bigger person all the time. But when it matters the most, it truly does pay to be the bigger person. Because if every time my daughter got angry, I reacted to her anger by saying, well, I didn't have this and I didn't have that and my mama didn't do this and my dad didn't do that, I am completely invalidating all of her emotions. All of them. Every single last one of them. And that's not fair to her. I've been here longer than she has. She is newer to the world than I am. And so to completely shut down what she feels and to turn myself into the victim at her expense, that's unfair. I can't do that. I don't want my daughter to be half or a quarter of a person just because I feel like I am half or a quarter of a person. That's not fair. That's not fair. It's not. So emotional maturity, especially in our community, it is needed. It is necessary. It is something that truly, truly needs to be taught and understood and realized. Like, I feel like we'd be so much better if that were the case. I do. Y'all, do I need to break this episode up into like multiple parts? I just might do that. I might do that because there's a lot to say about this topic. So, you know what? I'm going to do that. So, next time, y'all, because we are already, basically an hour into it already. We are already about an hour into this episode, and there is so much left to say. And we're going to talk about it. I promise you, because next time that you hear this, we're going to be talking about the obscurity of emotional maturity in Black men. So I hope that you are ready for that. This is going to be a multi-part episode. I decided in the moment, looking at the time I've been recording, and we're going to make this a multi-part episode. So I hope that you all tune in. to the next episode, which will be out next week. And we're going to continue this conversation. And we're going to pick up where we left off about the obscurity of emotional maturity in black men. And the only reason I'm talking about this is because I am a black man. It's because I am a black man. And because I am, I know where a lot of these things come from. And I want to be able to speak from a place that can truly communicate that. So, you all know how to find us and support us. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and also take the conversation to our throne room. Links, along with everything else, are in the show notes. Wherever you are, whomever you are, I want to always encourage you to be more introspective and vulnerable with yourself. Know who you are, trust in who you are, love who you are. Again, I just want to thank you all for listening. I can't wait to continue this conversation because we're going to pick up exactly where we left off. I'm probably not even going to change the intro because, yeah, I decided right now, even after I record the intro, it's going to be a multi-part series. So, yeah, that's how we're going to do it. But I love y'all. Thank you all so much for listening. And as you all, this is my want for you. I want you to make every effort to find and keep your peace. Till next time.